and I'm here to do a leadership wrap up with Dr. Lim Musita. What's up, dude?
Yes, sir. Always a great time chatting. Looking forward to our conversation. Yeah, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on our topic today.
Yeah, so today I wanted to talk about with the opening of the government shutdown is over. If you're in the military, you're back to work. The vacation is over. And it actually wasn't a vacation because most people in the military or government civilians, they were
They were
working
working
for no
anyway.
pay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what any of this is what's happening here. But all that to say, people are supposed to be back in the office. And so I was thinking, man, we need to talk about the RTO culture, which is return to office. And you and I have been talking about this, and you actually have some pretty interesting stuff just with new things going on in your life. So I want
Yeah.
to start out by giving you a quote from a study that Cisco did in 2025. And here it is. It says 77% of employees and 81% of employers acknowledge that return to office mandates stem partly from a lack of trust in remote productivity, close quote. So take it away, Dr. Lim. What are your initial thoughts on all that?
Man, my initial thoughts are this is what we talk about on the Identity and Influence podcast. Um, it like in order to develop a leadership culture, you need to have high trust. I mean, in Lencioni's book, like trust is the foundation for just teams to work together. Trust is the foundation for leaders, and at the same time, as I'm gonna speak out of both sides of my mouth. There are certain industries and there are certain businesses that like rely on management more so than leadership, right? Uh, a company like Cisco, they got processes in place. They're trying to manage a system and they're trying to manage productivity. And so in certain industries, like that productivity, the coming back, I mean, in manufacturing you kind of need people there in order to like manage the system. And so in certain settings, I think that managing the systems and managing the people, come back to the office, come back so I can watch you, come back so I can make sure the processes are working. But the leadership kind of culture, yeah, if there's a lot of trust, if there's a lot of if if it's very innovative, if there's a lot of security in the organization, then like we're trusting people to like get their work done, and they don't necessarily need to come back to the office. And so like, yeah, I totally get the return to office for certain industries, for certain companies, for certain management cultures.
So, what are your thoughts then on Ronald Reagan's famous quote, trust but verify? I think a lot of times, yeah, you can trust your people, but shouldn't they have to go in the office sometimes? Or
Okay,
are
so
there, yeah.
yeah, so I just got a remote gig working with an organization out in Japan. And in fact, we had a conversation today about what the accountability looks like what the reporting looks like. Obviously, at the end of the day, I got to produce, so um, they'll be able to see whether I've done the work or not if I can produce these things. But they're halfway around the world, and then I got somebody that I'm working with in the States, and he's out of Chicago, and so um, we just kind of talked through what the accountability, oh, I can't even say it, accountability looks like. Like I'm tracking my hours. This is how we're going to manage the projects. This is the communication. This is when we'll meet. I mean, in for this particular situation, like we're producing something, but it allows us to be a little bit nimble. It allows us to not necessarily be on the clock because it's all project based, right? We need to produce, but it's not like we got to sit in an office for the same amount of time in order to get stuff done.
Yeah, I want to read a quote by McKinsey talking about trust and identity, right? That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is what McKinsey says. The policy mandate itself is far less important than the work environment organizations create and the practices that accompany a policy's implementation.
Yep.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that then? Like the importance of that work environment, the implementation of those policies. I mean,
Yeah,
what should we be doing?
it's all built off of the leadership culture or the management culture of the organization. And again, like some industries just kind of lend itself to more, let's manage the people, let's manage the systems, let's manage the process. But creating that leadership culture where there's high trust, where there's high accountability, where people are excited about the work that they're doing, and you're tapping into that intrinsic motivation. I mean, that just takes a great leader, a great vision, a compelling vision, in order, to create that kind of leadership culture. Yeah, to mandate the policy mandate. Yeah, and it's not about the work environment. The work environment is that leadership culture. The practices that accompany a policy's implementation is it's about the culture of the organization. It's about the leader, and whatever the leader does is what he's going to create in his culture. And so if it's about leadership and high trust and like, let's innovate and let's challenge the status quo, like that's what we're going to do. And if it's about, no, we're just managing a thing and this is how things need to go, then that's going to be that culture.
Okay, so then what do you think? What does fairness look like then in a hybrid environment? If we're going to be some in the office, some not in the office, there's a lot of workers out there that don't want to come into the office at all.
That's
I
true.
mean, come on,
Yeah.
that dude, you're a shammer at that point.
Yeah.
You just don't want people to know what you're doing. Now, before I want you to answer that question, but it if somebody gives me something that I need to get done and I don't get it done, then fire me.
Right.
So I'm with you on that.
Right. There's accountability
Um,
there.
yeah, yeah, there is. I mean, like as a college coach, for
Yeah.
instance, you've got numbers that you need to hit. If you don't hit those numbers, well then fire somebody.
Yeah,
If
man.
if those are the metrics, then those are the metrics.
Right.
Like my athletic director doesn't need to know where I'm at or what I'm doing. All he
Right.
knows is, and I when I would work um, for coaches or whoever, I just say, look, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
Once you know what you need from me, then let me go.
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing it, then bring me back in, and then you can either say, okay, well, why isn't this happening? And if I don't think the metrics are fair, then we can renegotiate. Or if they are, and I'm just a slacker, then I'm a
Yeah.
slacker.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what does fairness look like?
Man, man, it all depends, right? There's some guys, there's some people that you want like to be out there, right? Don't be in the office, get out there, make those sales. But even in like hybrid work situations, like they still create opportunities where there's like accountability. There's still a bunch of meetings. Like in fact, there's probably more communication in that in some hybrid offices. You know what I mean? Because like they just have people all over the country and they don't have one space. And so it all depends, right? Like if you're a established company, like everything's done on site, like that's the culture. That's what you do. So you come into the office. Um, but I know of lots of startups, I know a lot of organizations that they just don't have like that central location, but they have the accountability in place where they're still meeting. So in essence, that's kind of coming to the office, right? The meetings that you're having online through Zoom. Like, I mean, I know those guys that work remotely, like they're constantly looking at their phone because like all the project management tools have like keep dinging, Slack, all the different communication tools that they're using, like they're as connected, you know, as I think they could be, in that remote setting. So fairness is like, well, again, depends on the depends on the leader, depends on the culture of the organization, depends on the industry, right? I think startups, I mean, I know of companies, like I know this one publishing company. They're not really even a startup. They're like 10 years old, but they're still mostly remote because I mean that's just kind of what they've chosen. So yeah, like it all depends. Like so fair is whatever the leadership or management culture decides. I can't hear you.
Sorry, man, I put it on mute. So if an office can be a cultural hub, I'm all about that. Like
Yeah.
if a manager, a leader wants people to come in and say like, look, we just need to be
Yeah.
together because we're in the war room together or whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just is about policy, and I think today's workers, especially younger workers, they want to know what they're why they're doing something, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And that they belong to a thing.
Absolutely.
But then also like I've been in different places where like the environment was just so cool to be at. You know what I mean? Where like they had snacks and drinks and like it just was like a fun place to be, and it was set up in such a way that like it built community. And then some other places are just like so boring. You know what I mean? It's just a bunch of offices. They're not, it just isn't built for community. And that's okay, like in those settings, like again, it all depends.
All right. So if we're talking about identity, how do leaders anchor that identity when the environment just keeps on shifting? Because that's where we're at now. There's some hybrid work. There's some all in office. There's some completely remote, kind of like what you're doing now. You're not going to go out to Chicago. It would be too much money for them, and it just doesn't make sense. They want you to get your stuff done. Okay, so it sounds like you're mostly remote.
Yeah.
Great, but where does identity come into this?
I mean, I think identity uh like still can be shaped by these interactions, but you're bringing your identity into the interaction. So hopefully in light of your identity, in light of your personality, in light of your disc, right? Like you find that role or you find that job that makes sense. I know some like I think about like I got some buddies that are computer programmers. They do all of their stuff remote, right? And they don't really even talk to people. They're just given a task and they're just plugging away at their thing, right? Totally makes sense for them. They get their work done. In fact, they're a little bit more productive because they're not interacting with people. And so I think what's key is to know yourself and you know your identity well enough to know what kind of leadership culture or management culture you're going to need in order to thrive. Does that make sense? And so like if you need people, like find yourself in a company and in a startup or in some organization where you're interacting with people, where you're going to the office. If you need more accountability, like find that situation where you're going to get the accountability so that you could be um that you could be effective. Um so yeah, that's where I think identity comes in, like knowing your identity, knowing your personality going into the thing, so that like you find that situation that allows you to thrive and allows you to just get better.
Yeah, here's what's funny. I don't mind going into the office
Yeah, I
because
don't either. I love it.
everything that I do, you have to go to the office. As a chaplain in the army, I need to be around my soldiers. Like
Hmm.
that's where I talk to them like this. But when it comes down to like when you're doing life together,
Yeah.
you want to be in front of people. And I
Yeah.
like to be able to walk into somebody's office with my cup of coffee and just sit there,
Yeah.
hang out for a couple seconds. You're not going to do those kind of hangouts when you're hybrid. I'm not just going to call somebody like, hey, what's going on, dude? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like I have a reason to call. When I'm on deck for coaching, coaching is it's all there.
Right.
I would say 95% of coaching is person to person. Like
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna like even if you're doing film room or you're
Yeah.
doing walkthroughs, any of that kind of stuff, it's all in person. Um, but when I do a lot of my consulting, most of
Yeah.
it's done like this.
Right.
Like before COVID happened, I remember I used to ask people, I'd say, like I'd take on a client and I'd say, okay, do you want me to come into your church or to your business or whatever, or do you want to meet remotely? Dude, they used to look at me like, and you knew what they were thinking. They're thinking,
Yeah.
are you lazy?
Yeah.
Like, come in, let's sit down.
Yeah.
Then COVID happened. And now nobody wants you. Like I've had clients literally that were like 10 or 20 minutes away from where I was.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, let's
They
just
want to do
speed it up.
this.
They'd rather do that.
Yeah.
And the value shifted. I'll tell you, speaking of the government, I know you were asking me about, the government reopening. Here's a funny one. When COVID happened, one of the best things that could have ever happened for what in the Army or in the military we call the help desk. There's a help desk for everything. So if your computer's not working, there's a help desk. If you can't get on the internet, there's a help desk. There's always a help desk. There's always a phone number. And you call and you used to be on hold for, I'm not kidding, dude, an hour or two. But as soon as COVID started, you'd call the help desk and you'd get right through immediately. You want to know why? Because they told all those guys, you got to go home, sit in front of your computer. When your name comes up in the queue, it's going to ring your phone or whatever the system is, and then it goes to the next guy.
Yeah.
And so I remember for a while, I didn't even think about that. And I was asking one guy one time, I called in and I got a person like within 2 minutes. And when we got done, I said, can I ask you a question? How am I getting through here so quick?
Yeah.
And he just laughs. He's like, we're all at home now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, whatever the Army does, they need to keep you guys 100% remote.
Yeah.
Because
you're not distracted.
They're not distracted. There's metrics. They know how long those guys are on the phone for, whether it's the clients. They record all the calls. And so there's the accountability. So I guess moving towards the end here, accountability is what's most important. And to your point, it's always about leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yeah.
If you're a good leader, one, your people are going to want to be around you.
Yeah.
But whether that's online or that's in person, and that's what I always strive to be. I strive to be a leader where people say, well, like I'm working, I'm getting paid, I have to go in somewhere. But if I got to go in somewhere, I'd rather go in and be working for Mo. I'd rather be working with Mo. That's what I want. I want people on my team that want to be around me. So I'll give you the last word.
Dude, I want to go back to that Cisco quote that you were saying that 77 of employees and 81% of employers acknowledge that the return to office mandates stem partly from a lack of trust, and part of that is people are just lazy, man. And exactly what you just said, because they need that accountability. They want them to come back. We need you to come back so that we can watch you. We need you to come back because you're lazy and you're not producing, and we want to provide that accountability. So I totally get that. Like, we didn't necessarily address that. We were just kind of talking about some of the identity stuff, but like some people are just lazy, or some people just don't want to work. And so you need to get people to come back so that you can provide that accountability. But it's exactly like what we've talked about, like that leadership culture. If there's a clear and compelling vision that people want to just follow and want to be a part of, it's a lot easier for people to work hard and follow and come into the office and do all the things because they're connected to it. But if you're not connected to the job that you're doing, if you're just doing it for a paycheck, if you're just doing it for, well, I got to do something, then you're gonna do the minimum that you can in order to maintain the job. You know what I mean? And you're just trying to manage the thing. And so like that's why you need these policies and you need people to come back to the office to provide that accountability. So yeah, that's also a part of the deal.
Yeah, and if you're not finding meaning in your work, then you either need to up your skills so you can do what you want to do, or you got to find if you are using your skills and you don't like where you're at, then maybe you got to find somewhere else that has a better culture.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man.
Man, thank you.
For the YouTube audience, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, and drop a comment in the comment section. Are you a hybrid worker? Are you in person? Are you completely remote? And do you like it? And what are your thoughts on this whole thing? So until next time, thanks a lot, Doc.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.